Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to No Agenda, the show that has no jingles, no theme song, no commercials, and, well, actually, no talent and no agenda.
Exactly.
It's Adam Curry in the Curry condo in San Francisco, and John C. Dvorak is in the Dvorak mansion south of here. North of here or south of here, John? Where are you?
It's actually kind of a cross.
Oh,
I'm in the sunny community of Albany, which is the San Carlos of the East Bay.
The San Carlos of the East Bay, nice. So as we're getting this the show together in the format, so we actually, just before I hit record, we're going through the topics. So I think we have, what was your first one, John?
Well, the writer's strike is interesting to me, which is the Writers Guild of America, the guys who do all the TV stuff.
Now, remember, I said a couple of weeks ago this was going to be a big deal. We had a conversation in the hallway about this, I think.
Yeah, well, it's a big deal on one hand, but I think it's a huge blunder.
Okay.
I think it's a strategic blunder, and I'll explain why. And it doesn't surprise me that they'd make this mistake, because this is like the people that didn't get the the distribution over Napster. And I mean, it's just one of these things where new media impinges old media, and all the people that are involved in old media just don't understand how to deal with it.
Okay, on the side of the writers, on the side of the television companies, or both?
No, I think there is both, obviously. I mean, but I think in this case the writers are wrong, and here's what I'm thinking, is that if they'd wait. Right now, there's no metrics. I mean, essentially what they're doing is they're shooting themselves in the foot, because they're now. By the way, this has nothing to do with the fact that maybe they're getting screwed, or probably they're getting screwed on DVD sales.
Right, because that seems to be one major point of contention.
That's
but all
a no-brainer.
Right,
that's what they should be going out on. But when they start talking about new media and the internet, I think this is where they're making a mistake.
I think you're right, and in some of the more in-depth reporting that I've been looking at, the discrepancy on the DVD stuff seems to be much, much larger than this unknown. Like anyone's fucking monetizing properly on this stuff yet. You want 0.3% of what? Zero?
Exactly, and what they should be doing is just going after the DVD thing and then focusing on it. But now they're focused on something that nobody even knows if anybody's making any money. They may actually be losing money in a big way. A lot of these, like NBC and some of these other guys who are going off and doing their own thing, and they don't know what they're doing. I mean, it's laughable. And the stuff's being the works are being redistributed, but it's not like the DVD thing where there's actual sales. It's in many ways it's kind of a joke. And what the writers should have done is they should have just focused on the DVD and then waited until there was something going on the other side where they could bring something to the table and say, hey, look what's going on here. Here's how we're getting screwed. Right now they got nothing. It's all vague.
Yep.
And so it's weakening their whole position. I think it's a complete blunder. And here's what the worst part about it. By doing this now, they may actually be making the networks pull back on their internet approach and on the new media stuff, which is going to benefit everybody in the long haul. But if they have to pull back and rethink how they're going to do it so they can find some other way to screw the writers, because they really haven't been screwing them on that yet, it's just a bad idea. And what you're going to end up with is a lot of the stuff's going to be written in the contracts now in such a way that the writers are going to probably not do as well as they would have if they just waited to see where this whole new media thing was headed.
So I think there's two things. One is the studios and or the TV companies. The only real way they're making lots of money is still on DVD. That's kind of like after you've got, if you're not lucky enough to get syndication, after 3 seasons something can go into syndication. That's where you really start making some money.
That's actually 5 seasons. You want 5 seasons?
Is it now 5 seasons? Wow!
Because that gives you 5 days a week for 1 year.
Oh yeah, you're right. 5 seasons. But that, of course, is also dwindling or at least I think everyone can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And okay, so clearly online it has huge potential. That's where the money will be shifting. We know that the eyeballs are shifting towards online. But it's interesting, this timing. Although it was, planned with their negotiation schedule, we're on the verge of the launch of Hulu, which I think when you can't go there and get last night's episode of whatever it was because there was no episode last night, I think it's going to be a lot less interesting than what the networks probably overvalue their back catalog, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, they could. Yeah, that's a possibility. And we don't even know. I mean, the reviews are coming in on. I haven't gotten an account on Hulu.
Yeah, me neither. I applied, but it's like
I applied.
They're tied
I
into.
don't know.
I'm on the TSA list, man. How can I expect to get on the Hulu list?
I should be able to get on this list as just from my fact I have all these outlets.
You're street cred, man.
But I don't even know who to talk to.
Well, didn't you sign up? I just signed up.
I signed up on the website, and I got the letter. Oh, you're on the waiting list, and you'll be on one day. It's like joining a Bohemian Club or something. It'll be 14 years later, I'll get in. So it's so I'm a little disappointed there. So, but other people have gotten on. I actually could probably call these guys and say, hey, can you let me borrow your password? Let me go check it out.
Right.
I haven't bothered, but the reviews are coming and they're kind of mixed, but there was an article that ran in the New York Times discussing this, and the cool thing about this article was in bits, or whatever that thing is. The cool thing about the article was they had a lot of interesting comments from the commenters, the normal readers, and many of them were very critical of the whole concept and the way NBC was approaching this, and and their pals at Fox.
Well, interestingly enough, now you just said something there, John. You don't have a beta account. I don't have a beta account. Who are these people that have seen this, and why did they get on the list?
I don't know. It's worth asking.
Yeah, I mean,
find someone to ask.
Who do you know that's gotten on the list, that has written about it, someone of influence?
No, I think there's a couple of people that's seen it, if I remember. And I mean, if you go to Google and look it up, you'll find people who are reviewing it, and they tend to be the early rah-rah boys, right. Guys who they've never seen anything in their life. This is the greatest thing ever, and that usually fades after, some more realistic people come into the scene. So maybe they're just slipping it to the shills that are going to give them high PR. I don't know. All I know is that the whole thing is messed up, and it's I can't believe most people don't think it's going to be successful just out of the gun.
So just back to the Writers Guild of America, and actually I've been out all day. Have they gone on? Is the strike on now? Have they started that?
From what I understand from the last news report I saw, it's a done deal, and it's going to happen on Monday.
Okay. Pencils down. Pencils down mean pencils down.
But whether it really does, I mean, things end at the last minute. It could be a threat, an idle threat.
So do you think it'll affect our world?
No, I think it's actually beneficial to in the indie new media.
Right. So it affects us in a positive way.
Yeah, I think it's because people are going to be looking around at other things. It's not going to really make much of a difference right off the bat because, the only people that are going to be immediately affected are the late night shows and the Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Right. Jon Stewart, half the time he's on vacation anyway. Let's face reality.
But he actually has to. I mean, he's in WGA. Letterman's in WGA. They actually have to go on strike. Yeah, they'll have to go.
Letterman will be out. Leno will be gone. And the Daily Show will be gone. Colbert. But those guys. Colbert and Daily Show, those guys are half the time they're gone anyway.
Repeats, yeah. I will say I'm all for unions, and if I'm not agreeing with the leadership and what their decisions are, but unions are a good idea, and I think people should be able to organize, and this shows power.
Well, just to one up you on this, I actually used to be a union organizer. So in fact, I organized
Teamster.
I wish. I helped organize a union, and we got it underway and the whole thing. So I went through the whole process and got a lot of training. I know the whole, all the litany on both sides of the thing. And I'm a pro-union. I was in a number of unions when I was younger. When I was working, when I was going through college, and I worked during the summers. I joined different unions, and even when I was in high school, I was in various unions.
Well, I joined AFTRA, and I got a SAG card, and really it was all about the insurance. Just having good health insurance. That's really what I cared about.
Well, that's important. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the point is so I'm not anti-union by any means. I think they're good things. I think they're a little passé. I think they need to be rethought the way they work. But
Union 2.0, the social network.
Now you're talking. But it just seems to me that the leadership of a lot of unions is flaky.
Yeah.
And in this case, I think there weren't. It's not leadership. It's just kind of a knee-jerk kind of thing. This whole attacking new media before they even know how it's going to unroll or roll out. They're unsure. So it's weird.
Perfect timing. 10 minutes in. That's what we should keep the topics to. Let's try that.
I like it. So let's see what's next.
Blackwater.
Well, you got the Blackwater topic. You're coming from the European perspective. What are they thinking over there when they see all this Blackwater stuff?
Well, first of all, I don't think the Europeans are aware of Blackwater at all.
Really?
Oh, yeah, not at all. It's they don't. We did a round of press releases, and our PR agency in the UK went to all of the highbrow broadsheets with my Ron Paul interview. And just as an example of the lack of knowledge. And 40% did not know who the man was. And these were the political editors of, I don't know. I don't want to say which publication, which ones specifically, but all the big ones, like, the Times,
sure.
Guardian, Daily Mail, the real broadsheets. 40% didn't even know who he was. And then they said, well, he's just an isolationist, and he's not making any noise, so has no traction. They were unaware of the amount of money, don't really understand the significance of it. I'd have to say that knowledge level of how our political system works is very, very low. And the story about Blackwater, it just gets drowned out. By the way, the United Kingdom has some crap of their own going on that also is in the news. It's not just about what's going on over here. But no, they have no knowledge of Blackwater. However,
well, the reason I'm going to interrupt you because the reason that's interesting to me is because one of my bloggers on Dvorak Uncensored, Dvorak.org/blog for anyone who doesn't know, who posted the Blackwater story, went on to a kind of a tirade, which I actually edited out because I thought it was over the top. But before I edited it, went on about no wonder, talking about Blackwater, no wonder the Europeans and all these countries hate us because we're doing stuff like this. And now you're telling me they don't even know we're doing stuff like this, which makes the commentary ludicrous.
Right. No. Also, here's my issue. And there's a great, I think it's the only interview that I've been able to find of Eric Prince. This is the guy who, the CEO and founder of Blackwater.
Yeah, the head guy. Well, by the way, he was on a lot of while you were in London, he was on a lot of TV.
Yeah, but this is a 1 hour Charlie Rose interview. Did you see that one?
Okay. No, I didn't see it.
So, when Charlie Rose Rose was fucking great, as always. He just really calmly just sticks the knife in. And I gotta say, first of all, the guy is from Dutch descent, which is kind of interesting. Just to me personally, he was spotless the way he went through this. A couple of things that are interesting. First of all, what he's claiming at least is that what Blackwater really does is they train. So they also train Army and Navy and Air Force and Marines. They're just a training facility, an outsource essentially. They train people. And then they hand them over. They are actually under military command. That's the way he made it sound. And I watched it back a couple of times. Like, okay, so they're not operating completely in a vacuum there. But it's okay. Besides the fact that he's part of the war industrial complex, there's really no difference between a service that he's providing. Or companies that are making fighter jets and ships and catering. I mean, there are more commercial companies I've come to understand, and I got to believe there are more commercial companies in Iraq, personnel headcount wise, than are military personnel. You just don't think of it that way, but all of the infrastructure, all of the support, that's coming from commercial companies, which of course is pumping money into the economy.
There is generally speaking, at least the word here is that half the soldiers over there are contractors, and half are military.
Yeah.
And some of the people are complaining about the fact that, and this is kind of weird, for example, the Army's not even especially in the green zone, supposedly, and I have friends in the green zone, I have to verify this, but I'm hearing that they have catering companies that are independent contractors doing the food for the Army.
Dude, Burger King and fucking, not Domino's, Pizza Hut. I was in Basra, on the base, and there's a fucking Burger King and a Pizza Hut. Did I just blow you away? Did you not come back on me there, John?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
So the point is what happened to the the KP, the Army cook? I mean, why aren't they cooking for themselves? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, even worse, the guys who were there on $40,000 a year, they're looking at these other guys and saying, "Fuck, this guy's making 100, 200 G's. Maybe these guys are highly paid.
They're highly paid."
And so they're like, that's what I should be worth. I mean, isn't that completely demoralizing?
Well, I think that's the reason they're having trouble recruiting people, because people are saying, why should I go into the Army if I can get a job with Blackwater? I can make 10 times more money.
Exactly. Well, and so I guess the revelation here is I don't think the American public even is aware of exactly this. The fact that we have more contractors over there than enlisted servicemen and women, about these discrepancies in pay. I mean, I think that's really the big eye opener, and people are going to start saying, "Wait a minute, this isn't right."
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous, and I think the guy I know that's over there, who I email with every so often, he says they're making more money than God.
Ugh.
And he's like, driving a truck.
So every single time you write off one of those checks to the IRS, that's literally what's being done with it.
Actually, I paid my IRS bill on October 15th because I'm, one of those guys. But I'm in line at the post office with about 10 other guys, all my age, same kind of thing. And they're all standing there to get the postmark on the check or on the envelope. And we start chatting with each other, as fellow comrades. Yeah. And the guy said, I wonder how many, I got this big check. I wonder how many bullets it's going to buy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I think I bought a jet or two.
Well, I probably only bought a Humvee, but it was more than I wanted to spend.
As long as you got a Hummer out of the deal.
I wish. I could have been nice to have like a, they should have made, I would have rather bought a used Humvee, but,
So anyway, I guess my hope from all of this is that there's some kind of way. What I don't think is constructive, and this is what I'm seeing a lot of online, is people are attacking this guy. He's evil, and and here's his evil castle, and that's the wrong place to focus the energy. Look at the structure of this, how this is working. Literally,
he's just an opportunist.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I was telling people that instead of complaining about it, I said, gee, how do we get in on this deal?
Well, there's really only two kinds of businesses I've never been interested in, and this is one of them, and the other one is pussy. There's lots of money I can make in sex business. I mean, that's easy. I'm not interested in being in that business.
What do you mean, selling your body? Oh, I see what you mean. You mean being a pimp.
No, would you know that the best online porn guys, it's all in Amsterdam.
Yeah, there's a lot of it there, I have to say. In fact, I ran it years and years ago. I went through Holland. I was at some event, and it was a early Boardwatch magazine thing. It was in Germany, and I ran into a bunch of these guys, and they said, "Well, you want to just take a run over to Rotterdam, and we'll go through Belgium, and we'll taste some beer and whatever." And we got in the car and went over there, and we stopped and visited a friend of a friend, and he ran. And this was like in the early '90s. In the early '90s, before the net was even going, it was the old bulletin board scene.
Yep.
And he had his nice little house, and it was just fine.
Oh yeah, a sex farm with that's what we call them. With like
and then
little
in
rooms.
the back, he said, in the back room, he had a bunch of servers. And they were cranking out porn like there was no tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Regulation was real easy, and it's socially acceptable to set up a business like that.
Yeah, and he was, cranking away, and I thought it was like, well, that's interesting. He was nonchalant about the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the way we roll with it, man. us Beneluxers.
Yeah, Beneluxers. So, but anyway, yeah, those businesses, you don't have to go to those businesses unless you have to, but it does look like easy money if you wanted to get caught up in it. But the funny thing is because when I was doing the tech TV show Silicon Spin, we used to have different people on. I used to have Danny Ash on a lot, and all kinds of other.
Who's Danny Ash?
Danny Ash was Danny. She was the one that she makes we figure $4 million a year, do just softcore.
Oh, okay. All right.
She's a soft core girl,
Cool.
and she has her sites. Danny's hard drive.
Oh, Danny's hard drive. Okay, I've heard of that. Sure.
And she, sweetest thing you ever wanted to meet. She's gorgeous too, and she'd be on. But she was a businesswoman. She's actually a hardcore businesswoman, and she would have some real interesting insights into all this stuff. And her husband was like a lawyer, so she was like the businesswoman. He's a lawyer. She's a stripper, or not a stripper, but whatever she was. She showed. She was,
she did like
she was
really,
an exhibitionist. That's what she was.
high end sexy shots.
Hot shots, right? That's about it.
Yeah.
But she would make it. We did some calculations at the time, and this was in the late '90s, '98 maybe, '99, something like that. That we figured she was made about 2.5 based on her numbers and the rest of what we knew. But the other people would come through this show, and they were porn people, and you could tell that they were being corrupted by it. Danny less so, because she was. I think she was pretty just a normal exhibitionist type woman. But the other people you could see, especially men, you could see them just slowly creeping toward that. I think I'd look pretty good with that big gold necklace.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I should open my shirt up a little bit more. I'm growing some hair here with the gold necklace. I think it's going to look pretty good.
That's a good look. Yeah, that's real good.
And then you can just see him falling into it. I could grease my hair a little more. I think maybe that will look good. What about a mustache?
Take away from this, when we're standing in line at the post office to put in our big ass IRS checks, we'd much rather they go to porn that we at least can enjoy the fruits of our labor that way than through bullets and shooting hot lead at other people in deserts.
Well, you're advocating the government invest in porn?
Yeah, right on. I'm running on that ticket. You wait.
It might work.
All right. What do we have next? Your turn.
Well, a lot of people in Europe don't realize that we have this weird drought. In fact, I think a lot of people in the United States, unless they're local to Georgia and Tennessee and places like that, don't realize there's been a drought going on there for about a year.
Really?
And it just turned out that today, apparently, some town in Tennessee went bone dry. So everybody in this whole city, you open the taps, nothing.
Nothing came out. Wow, what a nightmare, huh?
Well, it's not only a nightmare, but it causes all kinds of other issues, because when you take the water out of the system, the pipes now don't have anything holding them up in some places, and they start corroding real fast because oxygen is now hitting them, and you end up with a long-term problem that's hard to resolve. But nothing is going to get resolved unless it starts raining, and it won't probably rain in that area for another month.
So has FEMA moved in yet?
Well, that would help.
No, isn't that what they're there for? That's the emergency management agency. They're supposed to step in and save everyone.
Well, I don't know what they got the truck in water, I guess. But it's interesting that we're having a drought. Well, over the last couple of years, they've been having these floods, especially in England, in those nice coastal areas around Cornwall.
Not even the coastal areas, man. It was from Wales on up. And it started to hit London. That's when all of a sudden the emergency relief came in, is when Gordon Brown's hush puppies started to get wet.
So what would happen if those tubes all flooded?
Yeah,
the
for
subway
real.
tubes?
Yeah, for real. Well, I don't know. It would certainly fuck up my commute, that's for sure.
You could fly in.
No, but I didn't know that. So, but is this like a big town? Is it 100,000 people?
I just found out about it. It's probably a small town, but it's the beginning of many towns that are going to start drying up, it looks like. And Georgia's the next state to get hit hard. They're like down in, I think they're down to 60 days worth of water, and then they're done.
Wow.
So that's kind of interesting. And meanwhile, the glaciers are all melting. Why can't they use some of that water?
And that's one I wanted to hit on. I think I read it on your blog, and then you talked first. I heard it on Tech 5, and then I went to your weblog, and there was.
Yeah, I haven't actually fully blogged this yet. I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, this is about this. You called it a mountain of plastic in the middle of the ocean, which it isn't. But I did find this fascinating. It's called, I think, was it gyre? Is that what it's called? GYRE?
Or a gear. I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
Yeah, well, there was a link. One of your readers had posted a comment to a Google video. There was this little mini documentary about this team of volunteers that went to go check it out. And so this is like 3,000 miles, off the coast in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, why don't you explain to listeners out there what we're talking about?
Okay, so a gyre is it's a natural phenomenon, and there's a couple of them. Basically, the way the currents flow, there's kind of like this big toilet bowl kind of motion, although, of course, there's no hole at the bottom that the water drains down into, but you do have an epicenter of this swirling water, and it just collects stuff. And what does it collect? Well, stuff that's floating. Like plastic,
plastic and bottles and wood.
And I couldn't really understand how large this area was, but I'm thinking like 10,000 miles. Just some unbelievable area of water. And they went through it, and literally, it's not like what you almost automatically imagine is this huge, like all these plastic bottles floating. Of course, that's not really true, because plastic does break down. In fact, it gets really brittle because of the salt water and the sun, and it breaks up, and it breaks into very microscopic bits that, of course, the plankton feeding organisms are now feeding on. And so that there's a whole sub story there of new deformed sea creatures, like these monsters that are going to grow out of this shit. But there's 10 times as much plastic in the water as there is plankton, and it's just unbelievable. You think, you see stuff that just gets discarded and it goes out to sea, but where does it go? It goes into this big fucking this cesspool in the middle of the oceans.
It's supposedly the size of Texas.
Right, that's more than 10,000 square miles. No.
Well, I don't know how many square miles it is, but it's probably, I don't know, when I finally get the big blog, it's big. It's a big piece of gob of goo out there, and apparently birds land on it and often get trapped. Because there's plastic rope, there's buoys, there's all kinds of stuff that you'd kind of expect to be there. But there's fluorescent tubes. I just love the idea of a big buoy with a bell on it dinging.
Yeah, but it's just like that's where all the trash goes. It just it was pretty wicked. Oh, if we're done with this one, I got a story that just blew me away.
Well, wait, but let's not get finished. I think they should nuke it.
Nuke the gyre?
Anyway, your next story.
Okay, thanks. No, this is like a music business story. Do you know who Seymour Stein is?
The name rings a bell, but no.
Okay, Seymour Stein is the guy who first, he legend in the music business, started Sire Records. And Sire Records, has had many famous artists, but Seymour Stein is really known for Madonna. He really took Madonna into mainstream, did the first big album with her, and he was her. Sire was her record label in the very beginning of her career. And Seymour Stein is a real, and I've hung out with him, back in the like mid '80s in London, and just one of these really weird guys. Typical music industry guys. Like he had a fish tank in his office with 50-pound notes at the bottom of this aquarium, and there were piranha swimming in the aquarium. It's like, you're welcome to go, grab the 50-pound note if you don't mind your hand getting eaten by a piranha. This is really one of these guys, right?
Hilarious.
And his ex-wife, Linda Stein, was also a legend in the music business. She was a manager, famously, of the Ramones. And she was the most abrasive woman you can imagine. I mean, she would yell, she would scream at people. She'd tell Joey Ramone, "Shut the fuck up." When they were touring in England, he was complaining about everything. He didn't like the food, and she just said, "Then get the fuck back to America, you fucking." These legendary, and it's funny because as far as I know, Seymour Stein was gay, if not at least bi, but it was really weird, these two, and of course they did break up eventually, so she was ex for a reason. So legendary woman, in fact, she had cancer, and she had been operated on cancer, and this is just one of those famous stories about her, so take it with a grain of salt. 4 hours after the operation, she was already on the phone yelling at someone who fucked something up. Yeah, just crazy. They found her bludgeoned to death in her apartment yesterday in New York on Fifth Avenue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It wasn't in the news out here.
Well, well, there you go. But it's one of the, you watch, the stories will come out, I'm sure, because, lots of artists dealt with her, so I'm sure people are going to be talking about this. You watch, it's going to be an interesting story. I'm sure that it'll...
well, yeah, it sounds like something that's going to develop. That's interesting.
And, she, it's like, who really were her enemies? Who would have wanted to do this? Well, the answer is fucking everybody. Everybody could have gone off on this woman at any time and bludgeoned her to death. Of course, she's kind of been out of the business for many years. So for this to happen now, it's just crazy.
The sounds of your story.
What's that?
Well, it sounds like everybody was trying to kill her. So I don't know. It sounds like a crime that's unsolvable.
Yeah. Maybe we should get Grisham on the scene. He'll take care of it.
Well, we're talking about that kind of industry. We should mention the last story, I think, should be this one, which is the Rick Cotton saga, which is another story that's developing. If you think that other one's going to get legs, I think this one might get legs in the blogosphere. Because it's just starting to come out now, and it started with a posting in kind of a private newsletter. Then it went to Ars Technica. Now, one of my bloggers picked it up, and I have it on the blog, which is the Rick Cotton, the counsel, the general counsel for NBC Universal, apparently representing the company, made the suggestion that the society, I want to quote from the article, society wastes entirely too much money policing crimes like burglary, fraud, and bank robbing when it should be doing something about piracy instead. No way. And here's the great quote. Our law enforcement resources are seriously misaligned, Cotton said. If you add up all the various kinds of property crimes in this country, everything from theft to fraud to burglary, bank robbing, all of it, it costs the country $16 billion a year. But intellectual property crime runs to hundreds of billions of dollars a year.
Go figure.
Is this guy clinically insane?
Go figure.
Now, I'm thinking, well, here's a guy who's just, a mouthpiece for the company. But in April, I did some more research, and in April, he was making noise about getting the White House to install a cabinet-level position for anti-piracy.
What shows? What shows does NBC produce? What is this incredibly important stuff that is so important to society?
Heroes, I think, is something, and then there's a couple other shows.
Get a fucking clue, dude.
It's unbelievable to me. Unbelievable.
Yeah, well.
I mean, the fact that NBC would let this guy say that on their behalf, that burglary, essentially what we're talking about is burglary, robbery, bank robbing, all this kind of thing is meaningless compared to their crappy business and the junk they put on television.
What was the context of this? Where did you say this?
It was at either some meeting or an interview or something like that. I'm going to have to backtrack.
we got to source that. I got to know more about that.
Yeah, you can. It's actually right now. It's a little hard to find. You can go if you go to Ars Technica. They're the first people that actually started running with it, and they sourced it back to a kind of a newsletter that's online, and they probably have the original source of it.
Dodgy. Sounds dodgy. Dodgy.
No, it does sound. It sounded dodgy to me at first, and then when I found out that this guy was already working on this cabinet level, he wanted a secretary of anti-piracy in the White House. I figured it makes nothing but sense that he would say this.
Unreal. To think. Well, I hope everyone rips this off and copies this wide. Please. And feel free to try. If you can sell some advertising against it, go ahead, insert some ads around it.
Knock yourself out.
We got no agenda.
Exactly. We got no agenda.
All right. So, all right, John. Well, next week, we can do it on Friday as well, actually. Did you do Cranky Geeks today, or was that not? No, what is that?
No, Cranky Geeks on Wednesday did it.
Wednesday.
And,
okay.
If you're around next week, maybe we can get you over there. Meanwhile, we've got no agenda, and next week we're going to have more no agenda.
No agenda, exactly. All right, I'm Adam Curry at the Curry Condo.
And I'm John C. Dvorak.
Okay, we'll talk to you next week.
The best and the brightest, served up daily by the sharpest minds in content delivery, Podshow and Limelight.